and Me, Chapter 2, We Invent the Franklin Stove. I slept late the next morning. When I woke, my fur cap home was hanging on the bedpost and I in it. Dr. Franklin was again crouched over the fire, attempting to write, between fits of sneezing and glasses hunting. The fire, what there was of it, was smoking, and the room was as cold as ever. Not wishing to be critical, I said, but perhaps a bit of wood on that smoky ember that you seem to consider a fire might— Waste not, want not, said he, severe, and went on writing. Well, just suppose, I said, just suppose you spend 2 or 3 weeks in bed with pneumonia. Would that be a waste, or— It would be, said he, putting on a log, whatever your name might be. Amos, I said. And then there'd be doctor's bills. Bills, said he, shuddering, and put on 2 more logs, quick. The fire blazed up then, and the room became a little better, but not much. Dr. Franklin, I said, that fireplace is all wrong. You might call me Ben, just plain Ben, said he. What's wrong with it? Well, for one thing, most of the heat goes up the chimney, and for another, you can't get around it. Now, outside our church, there used to be a hot chestnut man. Sometimes when business was rushing, he'd drop a chestnut. Pop was always on the lookout, and almost before it touched the ground, he'd have it in his sack and down to the vestry with it. There, he'd put it in the middle of the floor, and we'd all gather round it for the warmth. 28 of us it would heat, and the room was well. It was all because it was out in the open, not stuck in a hole in the wall like that fireplace. Amos, he interrupts, excited, there's an idea there, but we couldn't move the fire out into the middle of the room. We could if there was something to put it in, iron or something. But the smoke, he objected. Pipe, said I, and curled up for another nap. I didn't get it, though. Ben rushed up downstairs, came back with a great armful of junk, dumped it on the floor, and was off for more. No one could have slept, not even a dormouse. After a few trips, he had a big pile of things there. There were scraps of iron, tin, and wire. There were a couple of old warming pans, an iron oven, 3 flat irons, 6 pot lids, a wire bird cage, and an anvil. There were saws, hammers, files, drills, nails, screws, bolts, bricks, sand, and an old broken sword. He drew out a sort of plan and went to work. With the clatter he made, there was no chance of a nap, so I helped all I could, picking up the nuts and screws and tools that he dropped, and his glasses. Ben was a fair terror for work, once he was interested. It was almost noon before he stopped for a bit of rest. When we looked over what had been done, and it didn't look so bad, considering. It was shaped much like a small fireplace set up on legs, with 2 iron doors on the front, and a smoke pipe running from the back to the fireplace. He had taken the andirons out of the fireplace and boarded that up so we wouldn't lose any heat up the chimney. Ben walked around looking at it, proud as could be, but worried. The floor, he says. It's the floor that troubles me, Amos. With those short legs and that thin iron bottom, the heat. Down on the docks, said I, we used to hear the shipwrights telling how the sailors built their cooking fires on board ship. A layer of sand right on the deck, bricks on top of that, and— Amos, he shouts, you've got it! And rushed for the bricks and sand. He put a layer of sand in the bottom of the affair, the bricks on top of that, and then set the andirons in it. It looked pretty promising. Eureka, he claims, stepping back to admire it and tripping over the saw. Straighten things up a bit, Amos, while I run and get some logs. Don't try to run, I said. And by the way, do you come through the pantry on the way up? Why? He asked. In some ways, Ben, I said, you're fairly bright, but in others, you're just plain dull. The joy of creating may be meat and drink to you, but as for me, a bit of cheese. He was gone before I finished, but when he came back with the logs, he did have a fine slab of cheese, a loaf of rye bread, and a good big tankard of ale. We put in some kindling and logs and lit her up. She drew fine, and Ben was so proud and excited that I had to be rather sharp with him before he would settle down to some food. Even then, he was up every minute to admire it from a new angle. Before we'd finished even one sandwich, the room had warmed up like a summer afternoon. Amos, says he, we've done it. Thanks for the we, I said. I'll remember it.